I'm Dave Cathey, the Food Dude. We're here at Culinary Kitchen. Today we're going to make some New Mexico style red chili. You guys know I love Texas chili. I grew up on it, cook it all the time, but I've been in Santa Fe here recently. Came back with this great recipe from a guy named Jim Long, who owns a line of hotels out in New Mexico called Heritage Hotels and Resort. Very cool hotels, very interesting guy. He took me into his palatial pueblo with a group of people, and there he sat and he made us this red chili that was his grandmother's recipe. So I watched, I helped out a little bit, and so I brought it back. That along with some great red chili socks, which I'm wearing for good luck today. So let's head to the kitchen and I'll show you how to make this red chili. All right, so the heart and soul of this recipe is the red chili that is all over New Mexico. You can grow them anywhere, but in New Mexico they grow them just a little bit different. Now, this is a hatch chili that I bought here locally recently. They're available in Oklahoma City the first few weeks of August every year. Now, usually when you buy them, they're green, so thus green chili. If you hang on to them for a little while though, they ripen and turn red. Now, traditionally, once they turn red like this, they're left in the sun in the dry desert heat to shrivel up till they look like this, all right? That is a red chili proper, like you're gonna cook with. Now, we don't have dry desert magical air here in Oklahoma, so if you have chilies like this, you can't leave them outside and get this effect, but to get this, you can do it. What you can do is put your oven on the lowest setting, put them on a tray, put these on the tray in the oven, lowest temperature, overnight. By morning, voila, this is what you'll have. So after that handy little bit of advice, here's how we're gonna deal with this thing. You hollow these out, getting rid of the seeds, and here's how we do it. Most of the seeds are clustered here at the top, so we're gonna cut the top of the stem off. You can see there, a lot of seeds already coming out. Then I'm gonna kind of probe it a little bit here. Open it up. Okay, perfect. Open up my trash, and out come the seeds. Now, people will always, a lot of times you'll hear people say, the heat is in the seeds. Well, that's not necessarily the case. The heat is in a little part called the membrane, right here, and that's where the seeds live. That's why they have a lot of heat, because they live where the heat is. So we leave the membrane in to keep the heat, get rid of the seeds to get rid of that, get rid of the texture. Now, dried chilies into boiling water. It's the next step. We're gonna let that go for about 10 minutes. Turn it down a little bit. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, got to get those nice and immersed. We'll figure it out, and then we're going to let those go. That'll take, like I said, about 10 minutes, and then we move on to the next step. We've taken that down to the lowest temperature. See a nice low simmer. Then I'm going to cover that up. Okay. All right. No red chili is complete without pinto beans. When I was in New Mexico, I think every meal I had pinto beans, and not refried beans. Whole pinto beans, seasoned very simply. What I've got in this pot right here is some beans that I boiled up from dry. They cook for about 2.5 hours till they're soft. My mother always told me, don't add salt to the beans until they're softened, otherwise they'll be tough. Mama's right. So a couple hours later, these are ready to be seasoned. So to do that, I like to kill two birds with one stone, and I make some salsa. So we go from beans to salsa. All right, I like to make salsa when I'm making beans to kill two birds with one stone. I really like to eat salsa. So there's that excuse. The other part is it really helps the bean broth. Married to a vegetarian wife, she's not real crazy about pork or beef or anything like that in her beans. So I found another way around it. I make salsa and I drain the salsa into the beans. I'll show you how I do it. All right, we've got some fresh tomatoes here. We'll get to that in a minute. And I got some onion, which I'm just gonna cut that real rough, like so. Some garlic, which I'm gonna leave just like that. I have 3 serranos. These serrano chilies are a little spicier than jalapenos, and I just like the flavor better. Intro here. All right, so first things first, we'll do the tomatoes and garlic first. Just kind of want to get it started here. Get those tomatoes going just a little bit before I start adding in the other ingredients. Okay? Now, one trick I like to do, see all that water in there? I'm going to add some salt to kind of help dehydrate this. And it's going to look like a lot, and that's because it is. But remember, I'm using this to season the beans too. And with some onion, A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now we're just going to take it down. Almost done. One last step. We get half a lime. The stuff in the bottles just doesn't work. It's concentrated, changes the flavor greatly. You got to go with fresh. Besides, they're like 10 cents, 15 cents, whatever, very cheap. And you cannot replace the flavor of fresh fruit. Okay, for our purposes now, we're good to go because I see a lot of liquid that I want to use. So now I've got a strainer here that I'm put directly over the beans. All right, pour it in. See there, I still got some tomato, but that's okay because I'm going to stick it back in the food processor here in a minute. Finish it up. As you can see, got all this water filtering out into my beans, and that's going to take with it some garlic flavor, some pepper flavor, plenty of salt, and some tomato. All right, so now we're ready to move on to the meat that we're going to be using for our red chili. Well, I've got two kinds here. I've got pork and I've got beef. And this is the way Jim did it. And you know, what I liked about it is the pork brings in a lot of salt flavor. And this is a very simply seasoned dish. So I think that really kind of puts it over the top. So what we're going to do our pork and beef together. All right, we're just going to put in about a half a cup of flour here, just so that we'll start our gravy as we're browning. Okay. Okay, so that's it. So now I'm just going to take that and put that right into the frying pan. So now we're going to add this floured pork and beef to the hot pan. I'm just going to brown that up. Takes, 10 or 15 minutes. We'll be stirring it, and we'll be getting that gravy started a little bit early. All right, red chilies, as you can see now, they're nice and limp, rehydrated. So they're primed to be turned into sauce. All right. See, I'm not going to shake out the liquid. It's okay. I kind of want that liquid in there. I like to call it chili tea. And now we just go. Oh, we're on pulse. There we go. Yeah, that's browning up super fast. All right, next thing we're doing, this is our red chilies. Nice and processed. Look how smooth. All right, process them long enough where I don't have to run them through a sieve or anything. They're perfect. All right, didn't get up early this weekend and make chicken stock, so I'm going with some chicken stock from the store. Just to bring that up. A little bit more. All in all, about a cup and a half. That broth for 2 pounds of meat. Maybe two. You can't really overhydrate it because it's going to cook down. This is the kind of dish, the longer it cooks, the better. You can see here the meat is cut into bite-sized pieces. They'll cook faster that way. That way you can have chili ready in about 20 minutes if you need to. But again, the longer it cooks, the better. And if it starts getting over thick, you just add more stock. Okay, so we're just going to let that simmer. Oh, forgot one little thing too. I always like to put just a little bit of this chili tea in there too for some extra character. Okay. All right. Kind of looks like stew right now, but by the time we're done with it, it'll be nice and thick, and we'll be swiping it up with fresh flour tortillas. All right, in New Mexico, there is no beans and rice. There's beans and calabacitas. Calabacitas is omnipresent out there. What is it? It's squash. Squash, corn, and onions. I don't have a whole one to show you. I got some slices to show you, okay? But I'll show you real quick how to cut them, all right? Squash already been rinsed, scrubbed, all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna take off one end. I'm gonna take off the other end. Then I'm gonna cut it in half. All right? I'm gonna take those halves, and I cut those in half. It's a lot of halving. Then I'm gonna put them all together, slice it across. So anyway, we have our little slices of squash, which are gonna go in this mixing bowl with all the stuff that I did in advance so I wouldn't bore everybody to tears with my slow prepping skills. Not doing that all wrong. All right, squash away. That one doesn't want to play, fine. All right, and corn. This is raw. So you say to me, Dave, how did we do this? Well, you'll see, it's really not that complicated. So I'm gonna cut that off directly into my bowl. This super, super sharp knife. Trying not to cut my fingers off.
Be very careful with that knife.
Yeah.
Easy.
There we go. Okay. Comes off in nice strings for us. Corn's still in season, just barely. You can do this with frozen corn if you want to, but there's really no substitute for fresh corn with the nice milk coming off the cob there. Look at that. Okay. So now, the only other ingredient I have left is cilantro, which I'm going to finish this dish with. I'm going to take all these ingredients here and I'm going to saute them in butter very briefly, add salt and pepper and cilantro, and it will be done. And it will play very nicely with this red chili and with the beans. Last thing is the calabacitas. We've got our squash, corn, and onions all into some melted butter. Some salt on there. Can't get nice and high on this one. All right, some pepper. Hope this works. Yes. I like to cook this just for a couple of minutes so that the squash doesn't get overcooked. I like a little crispness on it, and same with the corn. Red chili is ready. We're ready to plate this stuff up. Meanwhile, red chili, nice and thick as promised. Tons of flavor. Chopped cilantro, that to finish it. Integrate that nicely. There we go. Do it this way. Okay. Okay. A bit of that. Some of our beans. A little bit of salsa on top of those beans. Okay. Let's do a little bit of this. That's a hearty plate right there. And then we've got a tortilla going on the griddle here. Warm. Just heating that up on a nice hot pan here. Didn't make these homemade. I apologize. That's a whole nother demo. We're just gonna fold it up nice and neat. Not so much neat. Right there. We got red chili with pinto beans and calabacitas.